My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 26 years old. I live in Tacoma, Washington. Well, I still live here. Some days, it doesn't really feel like home anymore. I work as an assistant mechanic at a small auto shop off Pacific Avenue. Nothing fancy. Mostly oil changes, brakes, and whatever my boss trusts me with that day. The job pays the bills, keeps my hands busy, and most importantly, keeps my mind quiet. I rent a small upstairs room in an old blue craftsman house. The floors creak when you walk. The heater rattles every winter morning. If you lean far enough out my window, you can see a thin line of the Puget Sound. But this wasn't always my place. The house belonged to my best friend and his wife. His name was Daniel Harper. We met freshman year of high school. He punched a senior who stole my backpack. I didn't even know him yet. Afterward, he just shrugged and said, "You looked like you weren't going to fight back." That was Daniel. Big heart, loud laugh, zero hesitation. After that day, we were inseparable. Weekend basketball, summer construction jobs, late nights eating cheap pizza, and talking about the future. Daniel always had plans. Marriage by 30, a house with a porch, 2 kids, maybe a dog. He used to say, "I don't want a crazy life. I just want a good one." And honestly, he got it, at least for a while. I met his wife, Claire, a year after college. Daniel invited me to dinner one Friday night. He seemed weirdly nervous about it. When she opened the door, I understood why. Claire wasn't flashy beautiful. She felt warm. Soft brown hair tied loosely back. Paint on her fingers. An oversized sweater slipping off one shoulder like she didn't notice. She smiled like she already knew you. "Ethan," she said, shaking my hand. "I've heard about you for years." Daniel laughed behind her. "Only the good stories." She rolled her eyes. "That means definitely not." Dinner felt easy, natural. She was an art teacher at a middle school. Quiet humor, observant, kind. The type of person who noticed your empty glass before you did. I never thought about her any other way. She was Daniel's wife. That alone made her untouchable in my mind. Life settled into routine. I came over most Sundays for dinner. Daniel grilled, even when it rained. Claire graded papers at the counter while we argued about sports. Sometimes she laughed so hard she covered her mouth. Sometimes Daniel looked at her like he couldn't believe she existed. Those moments stayed with me later, because they showed how real their love was. The accident happened on a Tuesday morning. Rain. Highway 16. A delivery truck lost control. Daniel never made it to the hospital. 3 days later, I stood in their living room surrounded by casseroles and quiet voices. Claire barely cried. She just kept thanking people. Over and over. Like politeness was the only thing holding her together. When everyone finally left, she sat on the couch staring ahead. "I don't know what to do now," she said softly. I didn't have an answer, so I stayed. At first, I slept on the couch so she wouldn't be alone. 1 week became 2. The house felt wrong without Daniel's noise. No music, no boots by the door, no half-finished garage projects. Just silence. Claire forgot to eat, forgot bills, lost track of days. One evening, she stood in the kitchen holding a mug, staring at it. "I think you should stay here," she said suddenly. "At least for a while." I hesitated. It felt complicated. But then she added quietly, "I don't want to be alone yet." So I moved into the spare room. Just temporary. That's what we both said. The first weeks were survival. We existed side by side inside grief. Morning coffee in silence. TV shows we didn't really watch. Sometimes we talked about Daniel. Sometimes we avoided his name completely. One night, she found his jacket in the closet and broke down instantly. I sat beside her, unsure what to do. Eventually, she leaned into me. Not romantic, just human. 2 people trying not to fall apart. Months passed. Grief changed. It stopped shouting and started whispering. Claire returned to teaching. I worked longer hours. The house slowly felt alive again. Music played softly while she painted at night. We started cooking together. Shared jokes formed without us noticing. One evening we tried fixing a cabinet hinge. It collapsed completely. We ended up laughing on the kitchen floor. She pushed her hair behind her ear, still smiling. And for the first time, I noticed her differently. Guilt hit me immediately. I stood up fast. "I'll grab tools from the garage," I said. I avoided my own thoughts the rest of the night. The moment everything shifted was ordinary. The heater broke in December. Freezing rain outside. The house turning cold. We dragged blankets into the living room and used a small space heater. We sat closer just to stay warm. She wore one of Daniel's old hoodies. That nearly broke me. We talked for hours. About loneliness. About nights feeling endless. About how everyone else kept moving forward. I hate nights, she admitted quietly. That's when I remember he's not coming back. Her voice cracked. Without thinking, I covered her hand with mine. She didn't pull away. Her fingers tightened slightly. The room felt smaller, quieter, different. We both felt it. Neither of us moved. After that night, awareness stayed between us. Unspoken, but real. Eye contact lasted longer. Accidental touches lingered. Silence carried meaning. I started staying in shared spaces longer. And every time I caught myself watching her, guilt followed. Daniel was my best friend. I owed him loyalty. Didn't I? But grief changes people. Loneliness blurs lines. Comfort starts to feel necessary. My thoughts became exhausting. At work, I replayed conversations again and again. Was she leaning closer? Was I imagining things? I told myself it wasn't attraction. Just shared loss. Just healing. But deep down, I knew I was starting to care about her. And that scared me. The line crossed on a rainy March evening. We were looking through old photo albums together. Pictures of Daniel everywhere. Camping trips. Birthdays. Their wedding. She laughed through tears at a photo of him dancing badly. He always thought he could dance, she said. He couldn't, I replied. We both laughed. Then the laughter faded. She looked at me differently. Not as Daniel's friend. Just me. I don't feel alone when you're here, she whispered. My chest tightened. You shouldn't say that. Why? Because I wanted to hear it again. Because it felt right. Because it felt wrong. I don't know, I said softly. Our faces were suddenly close. Close enough to choose differently. Neither of us did. She kissed me. Soft. Careful. Almost unsure. I froze for a moment, then kissed her back, and instantly knew everything had changed. We pulled apart quickly. Reality rushed in. We can't, I said. She nodded, breathing uneven. I know. But neither of us moved away. 3 days later, reality almost caught us. Daniel's older brother showed up unexpectedly. We were cooking dinner, laughing, standing too close. The knock made us jump apart. Her face went pale. During the visit, guilt sat heavy in my chest. Every normal word felt like pretending. After he left, silence filled the house. This is wrong, I finally said. She didn't argue. Tears filled her eyes. I miss him every day, she said. But I don't want to stop living too. That stayed with me. Because she was right. And still it hurt. We tried to go back to normal. More distance. Closed doors. Careful conversations. But something had already changed. You can't unknow closeness. A week later, I told her I was looking for my own place. Her expression stayed calm at first. Then she nodded slowly. Maybe that's best. Neither of us said what we really meant. My last night felt unreal. Boxes by the door. Rain tapping against the windows. We sat on the same couch where grief first brought us together. I never meant for this to happen, I said. Me neither. She smiled sadly. But I don't regret caring about you. That almost broke me. I wanted to stay. I wanted to believe Daniel would understand. But some lines don't stop hurting once crossed. I hugged her goodbye. Longer than friends should. Shorter than lovers would. Then I left. Now I live across town in a small apartment above a laundromat. Sometimes we text. Birthdays. Holidays. Simple check-ins. Nothing more. She's rebuilding her life slowly. Painting again. Traveling. Learning a future she never planned. And me, I still drive past that blue house, sometimes. Not intentionally. At least that's what I tell myself. What happened between us wasn't a grand romance. And it wasn't betrayal either. It was two lonely people trying to survive grief. Feelings don't always arrive at the right time. Sometimes they come when hearts are still healing. When love and loss look almost the same. I still miss my best friend every day. And sometimes I miss the life that almost happened after he was gone. That's the part nobody warns you about. How moving forward can feel just as hard as letting go. And how some connections are meant to last forever, even when they were real.